All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us here on another edition of Extreme Health Radio. What a fun show to put together for all of you. I'm very blessed to be able to do this for you, and it's such an honor. So thank you for joining us. We do shows on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3 days a week. We're actually added a fourth show this week, so it's a great pleasure to serve you. And we are broadcasting worldwide from Southern California. Weather is amazing today. It's completely sunny, and it's about 60 degrees already in the morning. So it's really, really great. And it's an honor to be with you. And if you want to follow us on Facebook, feel free to do that at extremehealthradio.com/Facebook. We'd be honored to have you aboard and join our community. And thank you to Mr. Mike Adams of naturalnewsradio.com for having us on his network. It's a pleasure to be on there. And today is Wednesday, January 9th, 2013 already. Amazing. Man, time is just flying by. This is episode number 56. Speaking of time flying by, it feels like we just started. So you can find it at extremehealthradio.com/56. And on that show page, you'll find the transcription in time and the show notes and any books or reference materials that Dr. Rapp mentions today. And if you have any questions, I would love to connect with you. You can email them to me at justin@extremehealthradio.com. That would be a lot of fun to connect with you. Or if you have a little more courage, you can call 949-391-7363, and you can just leave a message. That's our voicemail line, and I'll play your message to our guest. So check our show schedule page for upcoming guests, and if you have any questions for them, that would be great. And I want to let you know this show is brought to you by Amazon.com. That's a way that you can support us anytime you make a purchase from Amazon. If you go to extremehealthradio.com/Amazon, that will just redirect you over there, and you can make your purchase, and that will help support our efforts as well. So thank you for that. For those of you who have been doing that, it's very much appreciated. So today is, again, Wednesday, January 9th, 2013. And before I introduce Dr. Rapp, I want to talk about our upcoming show schedule. We had to reschedule Monday's show for Thursday, and that is going to be with Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, and he's written a book called Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. So that should be a great, great show. And then on Friday, we've got Dr. Raymond Francis from Beyond Health. He's an international speaker, got lots of products that he creates, and he's an author and does a lot of great work. And then we take a little bit of a break, but then on Monday, February 11th, we have Annie Jubb from Life Food. I think it's lifefood.com or anniejubb.com. And she'll be talking about our liver health and how to do cleanses and generally eat a healthier diet. But today we have Dr. Doris Rapp. It's an honor for us to have her on our website and on our show. And she's a board-certified environmental medical specialist and also a pediatric allergist. And her latest book, Our Toxic World, is out. And she's also a homeopath, and she lectures around the world on the challenges of toxicity in our air and our food and in products. And she also practiced traditional allergy medicine for 18 years. And she's the author of Is This Your Child? Is This Your Child's World? And she talks about everything from mattresses to plastics to cookware to everyday household cleaning supplies and all of that kind of stuff. So it's an honor to have you on. Thank you for being on, Dr. Rapp.
Well, it's a pleasure to be on and have an opportunity to try to help as many of your listeners as possible with practical, fast, easy, inexpensive tips.
Oh, great. How's the weather out there in Arizona these days?
You should be so lucky. It's sunny and bright here every day. It rains once in 6 months, and you stay indoors because it really pours when it rains. And the temperature right now is 40 degrees. Beautiful sunny day, and it'll get up to 60, 65.
Oh, my gosh.
Best thing I ever did was move from Buffalo to here.
Yeah, it must be tough enduring those winters. It sounds like it's a little slice of paradise.
Yeah, you can ride your bicycle. It's also not only dry and sunny, but it's not windy, and I play tennis, so that's really fine. Every day you can play tennis here.
Oh, that's so cool. I heard that a lot of people ride their bikes there. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, there are biking paths all over.
Yeah, that's cool because it's relatively flat. Right?
Elderly people are very active in this area. They feel better and look better, whereas when I go to other places, the people sort of look down and stodgy and fat. Here, everybody's active someplace.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great.
They're in shorts, running around.
Yeah, it's important to get that vitamin D in the wintertime. I'm sure you guys get a lot of that.
We get more than enough vitamin D.
That's great. Speaking of staying indoors, a couple minutes ago, is the place that you are staying at, is that, I'm sure you've made sure that everything in your house has no toxins in it.
It really is. It really is. I'm very lucky. I have a hypoallergenic mattress, and everything in this house is allergy-free. So if someone has allergies, they don't have to worry when they come here.
Wow. Did you buy the house predicated upon that, or did you have it built, or how did that work? Did you
no, I just bought a house that didn't have any evidence of flooding or mold, and it's right on a lake, and it's just unbelievably beautiful, very sunny, and doesn't contain anything that causes allergies. The carpet is special, mattress is special, pillows are special.
Wow.
And the result is it just feels very good, and I have air purifiers, such as the Austin Air, in several rooms in the house so that the air is clean and doesn't smell of chemicals, dust, mold, pollen, that sort of thing.
Wow, and the Austin Air, that's the one that you like in particular, is that right?
Right, I'm sure there are other machines as good as this one, but this one takes out 3,000 different chemicals, and I like that because I think chemicals are one of the big causes of a lot of the chronic illness in this country. Mm. In other words, why do we have a cancer epidemic? Why do we have a thyroid and diabetes epidemic? Why are all these things happening? And I think the chemicals in the air and the food and the water are contaminating our bodies to such a degree that it's damaging our immune system, and we're more prone to infections. It damages the reproductive system so that many people have a lot of problems in relation to reproduction. It damages the basic areas of the body, the thyroid, the adrenals, all these, the endocrine system is all affected, the immune system, meaning you'll be more prone to have infection and allergies. And I'd say that no one could doubt that allergies are more common than ever before. Mm. But when you think about the average newborn baby, it has 278, I believe it is, or 87 toxic chemicals in their blood at birth. It means that they've been marinated in the uterus. They're floating in this solution that contains 287 toxic chemicals. And these, in time, certainly can account for some of the problems that we're seeing in children and in newborns today. And I'm sure it contributes to problems with fertility, which is definitely evident. The sperm counts are down, not only in animals, but also in humans. And I have a book called Our Toxic World, A Wake-Up Call. It talks all about the sexual effects, bad effects of the increased chemicals in everything that we eat and touch and smell.
Wow.
I believe that we are remiss in not realizing that we have, for example, a cancer epidemic. How much cancer do we have to have in the people that we love and our friends before we say, this is enough already? We know what causes a cancer. Why aren't we doing something about it? And I think it boils down to the fact that the corporations pay the lobbyists go to the politicians, and they'll find enough of them that will allow the air to be polluted, the water to be polluted, the foods to be polluted, and the result is that if they have enough money, they can sway the politicians so the laws are passed so that it is allowed to have more pollution of the air, more pollution of the water, more pollution of the foods. For example, there's a weed killer called 2,4-D. Almost all the other countries in the world have banned this because they know darn well that it causes lymphomas, a form of cancer, particularly in the males, and yet this 2,4-D is still sold and used in the United States. Why? If all these other countries banned it, why haven't we banned it? We know what the problem is. We aren't doing anything about it. Why aren't we? Because the corporations pay the lobbyists, who then influence the politicians, and there are enough politicians who aren't protecting the environment. Right. So when you hear of a politician telling you all the wonderful things that he's going to do, find out what he's going to do to keep our air, our water, and our food clean so that we, the adults as well as the children, have a fighting chance.
Yeah, and not much has been done since Nixon's war on cancer in 1971. I mean, really nothing's been done, has it?
Well, they haven't done the things that need to be done, and they know what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And I think we need more people that are advocates of environmental control. We're not asking for the moon when we say we want clean air, clean water, and clean foods. Why are they encouraging genetically engineered foods when they've been outlawed in many countries? Why are they encouraging irradiated foods? Somebody's getting a payoff.
Right.
And so we need people that will expose who's paying for what and figure out why we aren't being protected to the degree that we should be protected. I have a whole chapter in my book. I think it's I'm not sure. Chapter 5 is on sex, but I think it's chapter 7 that's on the environment and the laws, and it tells you exactly where the government has been remiss and tries to explain why they've made some of the decisions that they've made. For example, there are the evidence that aspartame, the artificial sweetener, and fluorides are bad, and shouldn't be in anything, is overwhelming. And yet our government has allowed fluorides to get in not only our water, but in our foods, in so many products. And the same for aspartame. Aspartame causes weight gain and cancer.
Wow.
Why would we put it in the foods and tell you that you're going to lose weight when you eat it because you're going to lose weight when you're dying? Give me a break.
What are some of your answers? What do you think why they're doing it?
I think they're getting a payoff.
You think
they're getting a payoff? Companies that make it. I hate to be so emphatic, but I'm sure that's true. And what we need are more people that will figure out exactly how the money exchange is going on and expose them. But they're clever. They might, for example, give a building to research on a medical campus if the professors of the university will say that these products are good, and they've done that. And maybe a year ago they found that the professors that were writing the articles saying certain things were good were being paid off $1 million or something for writing articles that something that was obviously bad was good. In other words, you can not only buy a politician, you can buy a scientist if you offer them enough.
Right.
And I think someplace along the line we have to have more people who have integrity, who say, this is wrong. I'm not going to stand up and say that it's good. I'm not going to pass a law that's going to allow increased pollution of the air and the food and the water when we already have a cancer epidemic and birth defects.
Yeah.
The birth defects are way, way up. Let me tell you how bad it is. If a male is exposed to toxic chemicals within 35 days of the time that he sees the child may not be normal physically or mentally. These chemicals can damage the sperm, which take 35 days to develop. In the female, if a female is exposed to chemicals the first 90 days of her pregnancy, she has something like a 70% chance of having a miscarriage, a defective baby, or a baby that has developmental problems or something of that sort. Wow. Autism didn't even exist 100 years ago. Very, very rarely did someone see someone with all the symptoms that we have now. Right. Now it's very, very common. Very, very common. The statistics are very high. Right. Cancer, a few years back, 1 in 100 might get cancer. Now, if you look at any group of people, 1 out of every 2 or 3 will develop cancer of the breast, cancer of the prostate. And we know what's causing it. In my book, A Toxic World, A Wake-Up Call, I show animal after animal, study after study, lots of scientific data indicating that we can see what's happening in the animals and wildlife and fish and birds, and we aren't doing anything about it.
Yeah, it's really amazing why we're not doing anything about it. We're with Dr. Doris Rapp, and her website, I don't know if I mentioned it before, it's drrapp.com, R-A-P-P, drrapp.com. And we got to take a short break, but I want to ask you some questions about the amount of chemicals that we're exposed to on a daily basis, and just talk a little bit more about that. And then later on in the show, we'll talk about how to detoxify our bodies and things like that. I hope you're enjoying.
That would be very helpful.
Yes, and I hope you are enjoying the show so far, everybody. And we'll be right back with Doris Rapp after this break. Hey there, thanks so much for listening to the interview so far. Hey, I'm curious if you have heard of a thing called the Conscious Parenting Summit. You can find it at extremehealthradio.com/CPS, and it's put together by Matt and Angela Monarch, and it's really been blowing my mind lately how it's possible to bring forth a healthy child into the world. And they interview about 20 different experts who have been doing this for 30 years, and it's been blowing my mind just what I'm learning. It's turning everything upside down as far as what I thought was normal in our culture. And in that summit, you'll learn about things like circumcision, vaccinations, ways to increase fertility, how to eliminate stretch marks, how to calm your baby, if you don't want to use diapers, you can actually do something where you can communicate with your child so they don't have to wear diapers. They'll let you know when they want to go to the bathroom. It's amazing. And water births and the role of doulas and midwives, how to have a home birth, the importance of skin-to-skin contact. I mean, it's just incredible. They talk about the dangers of C-section, breastfeeding, and it's just absolutely incredible. So I highly encourage you to check this out. If you want to get pregnant, or if you're struggling to get pregnant and you want to have the healthiest child possible, please take a look at this. It's extremehealthradio.com/CPS for Conscious Parenting Summit. So thanks for listening, and let's get back to this interview. All right, we are with Dr. Doris Rapp from drrapp.com. That's DRAPP.com. And Dr. Rapp, I wanted to ask you before the break happened, but I wanted to get this in. Do you know by chance how many chemicals the average person is exposed to on a daily basis? I guess it would be hard to tell, but on average, do you know?
Well, I'm sure there's hundreds.
Yeah.
I am sure there are hundreds. If you include all the chemicals in the air and the food and the water, and then there's clothing and furniture and the mattresses and the carpets, it's an immense number. And I think that's why we have a cancer epidemic, a diabetes epidemic, a thyroid epidemic, a developmental delay in children epidemic, birth defects are up. There are a lot of warning signals that we're doing something wrong, but we really haven't made any strides to do something about it. Right. If you go to cultures where they don't have all these modern ways of exposing people to chemicals in the air and the food and the water, you will find that they don't have diabetes and they don't have cancer and they don't have the diseases that we see now. Mm. They die from falling out of a tree or an infection, but they're not dying of diabetes, thyroid disease, and cancer. And maybe we ought to learn from that. Right. There was a study done in Israel, and the rate of cancer of the breast was continuing in some 20 countries that they were monitoring, including Israel. And each year it was going up and up and up in these 20 countries that they were watching. And then the Israeli ladies apparently got together and went to the politicians and said, we think it's chemicals that are causing the increase in the cancer. And then they convinced the government to cut down on chemicals being used, for example, in milk buckets to clean them after they poured out the milk. And the result was that the incidence of cancer definitely went down in Israel. And in young women, it went down tremendously. And this, to me, I don't understand why that study, it's referenced in my book, Our Toxic World, why everybody isn't reading that and saying, hey, in our city, maybe we could cut down cancer if we did this or did that. I know in Germany there was a shoe factory, and they were, through the exhaust systems or the smokestacks, they were spewing toxic chemicals into the air. And the result was that the people that lived the closest to the factory had the greatest amount of cancer and illness. And as you went further and further out, there was less cancer and less illness. And when the doctor who figured this out, because he used pins and put it on a map, and it was obvious that where the the center of the illness was located. And he went to the government officials and he said, we have to change that. This factory is making everyone sick. And their response was, but this is where most of the people work. So if you do that, they won't have any money, they won't have any jobs, so we can't close down the factory. And my answer to that is nonsense. You close down the factory and you put in some other factory that is producing something that is not toxic, right. And that gives people a job, and you don't contaminate the whole area.
Right.
Some of the solutions are just so obvious. And the doctor, incidentally, that said that this is what was causing all the illness so close to the city where he lived, he was chastised, and they wanted to take away his medical license because he had found the cause of the illness and had suggested what they might do in order to stop it.
Wow.
And I think that's a sin. They should have given him an award, and they should have listened to what he said and somehow or other changed the factory so that they made things that weren't toxic that wouldn't hurt people.
Wow. You know what's interesting is I was actually speaking with a guy yesterday in my gym, and he used to live in the Niagara Falls area, I think on the U.S. side, and he was telling me, he was telling me that place has so many plants there and there's so many toxic chemicals there. And everyone there, is dying of cancer. And it's interesting.
They're dying of cancer, the incidence of diabetes and thyroid disease and many illnesses and birth defective babies. Yeah. They're all higher. They were much higher when that was true. Many of those factories have now been closed down. But there was a road that, that you took to go to Niagara Falls from Buffalo, and it was just one terrible smelling factory after another. Right. And Love Canal was in that area. And eventually they closed down on that, and now I'm sure, I haven't checked the statistics, but I'm sure that the incidence of birth defective babies and miscarriages and cancer are definitely down in that area compared to how it was before.
What?
You can't see toxic chemicals that damage your body in so many ways and expect to stay well. It just isn't going to work. You've got to take care of your precious body because you only get one, and the mind in particular. I think I should emphasize that many people are having mental problems. And why is that? Your brain is like cream cheese. And chemicals, when you eat a lot of chemicals or they get into your body, the body tries to excrete it in your urine and your perspiration, your bowel movements, that sort of thing. But if you get the body in overload, then the body says, well, where do I put it now? And usually it's stored in fatty areas such as the breast or the brain. And this accounts for why we have so much breast cancer and so much cancer in the brain.
Right. Why do you think that people like this guy that I talked to don't understand about the role of chemicals in their daily living environment, like their home and their, most people just think, oh, I live next to a chemical plant, but they don't think about all of the chemicals they're exposed to in their house. And I think that's where we need to bridge the gap, don't we?
Well, that's why I wrote a book entitled 32 Tips to Keep You Safe. And basically in that book, I tell you things such as the microwave is dangerous. You shouldn't be microwaving your food under any circumstance. The microwaves go all through the house and through the walls and everything else. And then under that, I say, replace your microwave with an electric toaster oven, which will cost $15 to $20. And under that, I put, and here are the reasons why microwaves are dangerous. And then I list 15 reasons why microwaves are very bad. I think we not only have to tell people what's bad, but we have to tell them where they can get a good substitute, how they can make a better choice that's more economical and much safer. And that's what I try to do in my book, 32 Tips to Keep You Safe. Every time I tell you something's bad, I tell you a better choice that's less expensive, if possible. And then I list all the things that are really bad about the microwave or whatever it is that I'm talking about. And I think that's the way you have to approach it. You can't just say everything is wrong and this is bad and that's bad without telling people, well, what do I do about it?
Right.
They shouldn't have to do the research to figure out where to get a good carpet or where to get a good mattress.
What do you think, as far as people's homes, what do you think are the worst offenders here with chemicals and toxins?
Well, I think mattresses, these mattresses that leave their fingerprints, you leave your fingerprints in the mattresses because they're sort of like rubbery and spongy. These mattresses are full of toxic chemicals. And if you checked your pulse, many times if you get into something that causes allergies, your pulse will go up. So your pulse should run someplace between 65 and 85. If you take your pulse before you go to bed and it's 75, and the next morning your pulse is 90, your body has gone into an alarm state saying there's something wrong, and it could be your mattress, it could be your pillow, it could be a fabric softener on your sheets, it could be the carpet in the bedroom, it could be, but it's something probably related to the bed. You could be allergic to your honey, the person you're sleeping with, for example. In that, it's not funny. This can happen if they use an aftershave or a body lotion or cream at bedtime to which their partner is sensitive. They could have trouble during the night. But there are many ways that you can figure out answers. If you're always sick at a certain time in a certain place, get my book called Allergy Answers, and it tells you how to figure out why you're sick at Tuesday afternoon at 2 o'clock rather than Sunday morning at 8.
Yes.
You have to think about what did you eat or touch or smell that was different at that time. If you're well until May last year and then you've been sick ever since, what happened in April? What happened in early May? Did you move? Did you buy a new carpet? Did you buy new furniture? Are you sleeping on a different mattress? I would suggest to everybody to get a book by John Diamond, which is an inexpensive paperback, probably $6, $8. And it's called Your Body Doesn't Lie. And you should learn how to muscle test. Muscle testing means you put your arm out straight, like Hitler, and you hold it there and have somebody press gently on the back of your wrist. And then you hold, say, a vitamin on your chest, and then have somebody press on the wrist. And the wrist should stay nice and strong. And then you have them hold a can of 2,4-D or a weed killer or something, and you will see that if you press on the wrist of the outstretched arm, it goes down like a shot. So you have a way of telling right away that something is causing trouble because your muscles get weak. And then the other thing is you can take your pulse, and if your pulse normally runs about 80, and all of a sudden it's 110 after you eat a meal, or after you go into a certain room, or when you go into work, in contrast to when you're home, whenever your pulse shoots way, way up and there's no good reason for it, you have to say, what did I eat, touch, or smell? If you start paying attention to that, you'll get answers. And another little tip that might help is baking soda. Regular baking soda can stop some allergic reactions. So if you're reacting to something you ate, touched, or smelled, put a teaspoon of baking soda in some water and add enough water so you can swallow it, because it doesn't taste too good when it's concentrated. And you will find that probably in 15 minutes you'll feel better, because if your body is alkaline rather than acid, you have much less illness, and the alkalinity will help to decrease the acidity.
Okay.
And there are lists of foods in my book, Allergy Answers, showing which foods are alkaline and which foods are acid. If you want to check more into that, you should get the book by Robert Young called The pH Miracle, and that book is very good, and he talks about how he can clear up cancer in some people by just changing their body from being acidic to alkaline.
Isn't that amazing?
And you see acidity, one more thing, you can check the acidity or alkalinity by getting some pH strips at the drugstore, and you just wet them with your saliva or your urine, and you can tell whether your body is alkaline or acid. And then you read my book, Allergy Answers, and it tells you which foods are more alkaline.
Wow. Is there any difference between the baking soda and the baking powder?
Oh, yeah, they're two different substances.
Okay, so you want
the baking soda is altogether different. baking soda is bicarbonate powder,
Okay.
and it's very alkaline. Whereas baking powder, I don't know exactly what's in it, but it's not in my mind a particular medical remedy.
Do you think that would work for people like my wife has a peanut allergy? Would that work for that, do you think?
Well, if she got into a peanut by mistake and she is getting sick, and you know what's going to happen, on your way out the door, I would grab some baking soda and a glass of water, and in the car, I'd give her that on the way to the emergency room.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because if you have nothing else, baking soda would be a good remedy. I know once when I was in practice, I told that to a mother, and her baby got on the carpet and ate a crumb of a cookie that contained egg and turned blue, and she remembered what I told her. And she went and got the baking soda and just sprinkled it in his mouth. And the baby came back and the color got pink and the baby looked fine.
Oh, my gosh. Isn't that amazing? Such a cheap substance.
It really does work. And this is fast, easy, inexpensive. If you're in a restaurant and if something happens, just tell them that you're going to have a medical emergency and there'll be ambulances and everything here in a few minutes if you don't give me some baking soda. And I have a feeling you'll have baking soda before you know it.
Yeah. What do you make of all these cooking pots and pans? I know a lot of our listeners do the raw food thing, but many of us cook as well, a little bit. What do you make of these cooking pans and pots that people use?
If they're ceramic coated, they're great.
Okay.
And make sure the ceramic coating doesn't have a crack in it. If they're ceramic, they're great. If they're heavy gauge stainless steel, they're great. If they're aluminum, don't touch them with a 10-foot pole.
Okay.
And if you use iron skillets and things of that sort, that's good for women actually because they have their menstrual periods and they lose iron. But if you're older or you aren't having menses or you're a man, you don't really need that additional iron, so it could cause some problems in men. It wouldn't cause trouble in most women. In fact, it would be helpful.
Okay. What do you think? Have you tried out the La Creuset brand? I think they're ceramic, aren't they?
I don't know, but if they are ceramic, they should be all right. But remember, I've given you one clue that can tell you right away what to buy. Is this couch good for me? Is this mattress good for me? Is this food good for me? Is this pot good for me? Learn the muscle test. I know it's not scientific, and some men in the medical profession are squirming right now and maybe hanging up, but it works. I didn't believe it either, but if you learn the muscle test, if you get the book Your Body Doesn't Lie by John Diamond, it very clearly shows you how your body will react. Your body gives out sort of rays, and if something bad comes into your energy field, where these rays are coming out, it will affect your health. And I'll give you one example. I was at a medical meeting. They were giving a talk on some substance. I can't remember it. It was a chemical, and they said, this is so good for people who have allergies. So I went into the hall after the meeting, and there was a woman there that was the most allergic woman I'd ever seen in my whole life in my practice. And she said, do you think that this N-acetylcysteine would be helpful for me? And I said, well, I have no idea. Let me find out. And I went and I got the bottle that the doctor who'd given the lecture had held up in the air and said, this is so good. And she was standing in the hall. And I just had the bottle in my hand. I walked towards her. I got within 15 feet and she was on the floor. I said, this is ridiculous. She must be putting on. So I didn't tell her what I was doing. And what I did is I walked behind her so she didn't see when I was approaching her. And I came up from behind, and what do you think happened? Whammy, right down on the floor. I told her to keep away from that, but it absolutely would not be good for her.
Wow.
And this is why I'm saying, get that book. If you want a fast, easy, inexpensive answer that might be valid, read Your Body Doesn't Lie by John Diamond, because it shows you an inexpensive, fast, easy way that you can determine if something is going to make you sick before you use it. Another thing is, say the doctor gives you 5 prescriptions and something's making you sick. Check each one and you'll quickly be able to detect which one's causing the problem. say you're at the drugstore and you want to buy some vitamin, and they have 15 brands and 15 prices. You just muscle test each one, and when you find one that your arm, when it's extended, and you push on the wrist to push it down, it's like a rock, it means that you found something that is probably okay. Hey, it's not scientific. There are no good double-blind crossover studies. Test it for yourself, and you'll find that what I say seems to be valid.
Yeah.
It appears that simple, stupid test will tell you if something's going to be good for you or bad for you. In fact, if you just hold on to something that's polyester and have someone check your arm, and then hold on to something that's 100% cotton, not wrinkle-proof and stain-proof and doesn't have chemicals in it, organic cotton something, you will find that your arm will not go down with the cotton. It will go down like a shot with the polyester.
Wow.
Which contains formaldehyde, which in turn causes cancer.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to do with that muscle testing, because we had Dr. Robert Marshall on, but Dr. Bob Marshall, and he was talking about the energy field of the body, and he was talking a lot about muscle testing too, and he's a really, really good guy.
Yeah, I think that this will become more commonly recognized and accepted in time. Mm-hmm. I don't see why the chiropractors in particular haven't done this double-blinded studies. And if I'm made an error in that statement, by all means, tell me who did the study where, and I'd be delighted to know about it. But I think that that's fast, easy, inexpensive, and at least gives you some idea. And in my experience, it's reliable and consistent.
Yeah.
If you have something that makes you weak all the time, I can tell you every time you check it, you will have that arm get weak. Wow. And it means if you got into it, you will get sick in some way. But remember, one of the most important facts I want to get out to anyone that's listening is that any area of your body can be affected by an allergy, something you eat, touch, or smell. And it's even goes beyond that. Specific areas of the brain can be affected by exposure to an allergenic substance, so that it might be, pardon me, your ability to learn and remember. It might be the area that has to do with how you walk or how you speak, mm-hmm. and you can just get what appears to be reliable and accurate indications of what's good or bad for you by doing something as simple as muscle testing.
Wow. Yeah, that's fascinating. We are with Dr. Doris Rapp. We got to take another short break here really quickly, but check out her website, drrapp.com, DRRAPP.com, and she's got lots of videos on there and tons of information if you're interested in detoxifying your house, or maybe you're interested in detoxifying your workplace, which we should all focus on doing. So check out her website, drrapp.com, and we'll be right back with Dr. Rapp after this break. If you have been trying to grow your own food for a while, I would highly suggest checking out a DVD. It's a 2-disc DVD by Marjorie Wildcraft called Grow Your Own Groceries, and you can check it out at extremehealthradio.com/groceries. And if you have a black thumb like I used to have, you definitely will not after watching and going through her course. It's, like I said, 2 discs. And growing your own food is, I think, a critical thing for a couple of reasons. One is, even if it's organic food that you're buying, you don't know how long ago that food was picked. And we all know that as soon as a food is picked, it starts losing immediately its phytonutrients, its enzymes, and its minerals. So having fresh food is critical for your health. Also, you don't know if organic food has been watered with conventional city water that contain lots of contaminants and high calcium levels. So organic food, although it's really great, is not optimal. The other reason to grow your own food is you just don't want to rely too heavily on the grid, because you never know what's going to happen with our uncertain economy and our unstable grid and structure of our society. So growing your own food just a little bit will help you tremendously with your health and reconnecting with the cycle of life. And you can check out this DVD by Marjorie Wildcraft. I highly recommend it. It's really, really a great product. So it's great to have on hand. She teaches you everything you need to know about growing your own food from A to Z. It's really a great product. So check it out at extremehealthradio.com/groceries. All right, we're having a good time with Dr. Doris Rapp from drrapp.com, DRRAPP.com. Dr. Rapp, I wanted to kind of take this segment of the show to talk about some detoxification issues. And in my mind, the first step in detoxification would be removing your exposure to these chemicals, and then you can start working on getting these things out of your body. Is that right?
Absolutely right. Nobody could argue with that. If you sleep on a mattress that's full of chemicals, do not expect yourself to feel well in the morning when you get out of bed. You can't be exposed to tremendous amounts of something that makes you ill without getting rid of it. And the other bad thing is if you have asthma, breathing problems, or don't feel well, and you know you're living in a moldy house, and it proves that mold is a problem for you, you will not get well if you continue to live in that house unless you can get rid of the source of the molds and then get rid of the mycotoxins or the toxins given out by the molds in the walls and the ceiling, the floor, the carpet, the furniture. Okay. You simply have to get away from the molds that are bothering you.
Okay, so the first step, let's assume that someone has taken all the steps, they've gotten your books, and they've replaced all of their products in their house with non-toxic products. What are some of the steps that you would recommend for them to start detoxing their bodies out then?
Well, I'd want to add one more thing. I think you need an air purifier that takes out the dust, mold, pollen, and chemicals.
Okay.
Such as the Austin Air, which is 602-518-4388 to get a discount on that.
Okay, can you repeat that number once again? I'm sorry. 602-518-4388. Okay, and that's the Austin Air. You mentioned it earlier.
A discount on the air purifier that I really like. I'm sure there are others that are equally good, but this is what I have in my own house. And the Austin Air purifiers are used by many allergists that I know. They'll have 4 or 5 scattered around their house. Incidentally, you don't have to buy several of them. You can buy one and move it around to different rooms every 4 hours or so and turn it on high in each room, and you can keep your house really, even a big house, very allergy-free. Oh. The only tip is put it in the sickest person's bedroom 4 hours before bedtime.
Oh, okay.
Put it on high and shut the door, and when that individual goes into that room at night, they will have much less trouble because they're breathing clean air.
I would imagine it would be great to use for babies' rooms, too.
Oh, let me tell you about that. This to some mother, and she put it in the room where her baby was, and about an hour later, she rushed in the room, was scared silly. She thought the baby had died, and it was because the baby was quietly breathing for the first time in the baby's life.
Wow.
She did hear the baby breathing after she put the machine in.
Wow. And
the baby was breathing quietly.
How often do you have to change the filters out of those things? I guess it depends how often you use it or how much you use it.
It depends on the machine and how often you use it, but usually every 6 months. But you can extend the duration of that by vacuuming the outside of the filter.
Oh, okay.
You can tell when it needs to be changed. And if you want to check it thoroughly, you blow cigarette smoke in front of the machine and see how long it takes before the cigarette smoke disappears.
Wow, and you've probably tested every kind of air purifier out there, and...
Not really.
Oh, no.
No, I haven't. I just look for one that takes out the chemicals. They all claim they take out 99.4% of dust, mold, pollen, but it's the chemicals that I think are making people sick, and you have to have one that takes out chemicals. And the reason I like the Austin Air is because it claims and puts in writing they take out 3,000 chemicals, and they'll give you a list of them.
Wow, that's interesting. That's something good to have on hand in people's houses. Yeah, so if we were trying to get these chemicals out of our body, let's say we've been exposed for most of our life like we have, what are some of the ways that you like to cleanse and detoxify?
Okay, we're all sort of toxic dump sites. We've accumulated all these chemicals, and when the body didn't know where else to put it, it gets stored in the fat. How can we get rid of it? First of all, drink lots of good water, pure water, not tap water. Preferably water in glass, or best of all, get a water purification system so that you're bathing in good water and and drinking good water.
Okay.
Secondly, get your bowels moving. If you're constipated, you have a bowel movement once a week and plug the toilet. Let me tell you, it's sort of like having a garbage can in your belly that's giving off all kinds of toxins all the time. You simply have to have your bowels moving. What you eat today, this morning, should be out of your intestinal tract by late this afternoon. And you can eat some food like corn that will show you what the transit time is in your gut.
Wow.
The next thing is I would get a sauna, which makes you perspire, because when you perspire, you get rid of toxic metals in particular, but many chemicals. And some people will see green and yellow sebum, their skin oil, come out on their skin because they have so many toxic chemicals in their body. And sometimes the chamber where you perspire, they'll have a terrible smell because you're giving off these chemicals. And all I can say is, at first, if you're very toxic and you go in and take a sauna, you don't perspire at all. Your body is incapable of that. But as time goes on, you'll start to perspire. And at first, the chemicals will cause a bad smell. And the more toxic you are, the more the chamber will actually smell after you've perspired. But if you do it regularly, you will definitely feel better and you get rid of a lot of things. Mm-hmm. So you have to perspire through your skin, increase your bowel movements, and increase your urination. And these are 3 factors that will definitely help. There's a book that you can get at Amazon, used books for maybe $1 or $2, called Natural Methods of Detoxification by 2 women that write it, Jacqueline Krohn, Krohn.
Okay.
Natural Methods of Detoxification. It's no longer in print, but you can usually pick up a used copy. It's worth its weight in gold. It tells you inexpensive ways to detox, what you can put in the bath water, such as baking soda, to help clear out those toxins. And there are and then in addition, there are substances that you can take, such as glutathione. Mm-hmm. You take this orally. You can muscle test with your bottle of glutathione and your hand over your chest and your arm out straight. Press on that straight arm and see if it's stronger, and you'll find if you've got the right glutathione, your arm will be like a rock. You can't move it down. And the glutathione grabs onto the bad things in your body and enables you to get rid of them in your bowel movement and your urine and your perspiration.
Okay, and is that something
glutathione is very good, and you should be on good antioxidants, and you can talk with the druggist and find out which antioxidant preparation the druggist feels is best, but muscle test 2 or 3 and find out which one's best for you.
Okay. And is glutathione something you can buy as a supplement, like at a health food store?
You can buy it without a prescription. While I'm at it, let me tell you one other thing that would help everybody that's listening. Mm-hmm. This is the flu season. Lots of people are sick. Buy something called oscillocosinem. The name is terrible, so I'm going to sell it for you, but it only costs $8 to $12. And if you take it immediately when you start with an infection, you can frequently abort the whole thing.
Okay.
Or at least clear up your symptoms for 6 hours or so, and then you can take it again. It's oscillocosinem. Oscillocosinem. It's so good that it's found in most drugstores now, and certainly every health food store will have it. It only costs $8 to $12, and you put these little pellets under your tongue and use it 3 or 4 times the first day, twice the second day, once the third day, and usually it will keep you, the symptoms will improve.
Wow.
I've had very success with it. Pardon me?
Oh, I was just going to say, we have to break off for Natural News Radio. Thank you to Mike Adams of naturalnewsradio.com for having us on his website and his network. I wanted to ask you, too, about your thoughts about zeolites. Those are becoming popular. Are those good?
I've had some problems with lights, and I've had some people that have had trouble with water-softened water. Mm-hmm. And again, you just take a glass of water and have them hold regular water and water-softened water and purified water in glass, and you'll see a big difference. And if that water is a problem, only once did I trace it to zeolite, But this woman, her joints would swell, and her fingers would swell so much her fingernails would pop off. And it turned out to be 9 tablespoons of water, softened water did it. When I analyzed what was in the water, it was a zeolite.
Interesting. Okay. And so what about, I was going to ask you too, as far as detoxification, rebounding. What do you think of the power of rebounding? Do you think it's good?
Well, I must say, if I try rebounding, it gives me a headache because your brain is going up and down and bouncing against the top of your head. But I think anything that stirs up your circulation, that gets the blood coming into an area and coming out of an area repeatedly, that cleans out all the cells in that area. And people that, for example, have a source on their leg and they're trying to heal it and they don't seem to be getting any place. Many times if they just put their feet in very hot water, as hot as they can stand for a minute, and then very cold water, as cold as they can stand for a minute, and they do that about 11 times, starting and ending with the hot. This sort of is a push and pull for 11 times, and they pull everything into the leg and out of the leg in the circulation 11 times, and at the end of that, they're better. And many people have healed their legs and arms because they know this technique, and it just increases and improves the blood supply to the cells.
Wow, that's interesting. You know, something I thought about too is, do you think that any of these colon cleanses are good for people to do, to cleanse out some of these, like these herbal cleanses?
I have a colon cleanse maybe every 4 months.
Oh, really?
I think if you've never had one, you certainly have a lot of, some people get sort of a crust of bowel movement lining their whole intestine. And if you don't clean that out, it interferes with your absorption from your gut. And so I think it's a good idea to have a colon cleanse from somebody that knows how to do it. It shouldn't be painful. It shouldn't be smelly. It shouldn't be embarrassing if it's done right. There's none of those things, and usually costs about $80, $100.
And are you talking about like the colonics or the herbal cleanses that people do?
Well, I was talking about colonics. There are other cleanses that you can do on your own, and I'm sure there are books that tell you how to do it. I haven't used those personally, but I should think that the herbal cleanses would be excellent.
Wow.
If you're using the right herbs. But again, pay attention to how you feel before you start it, and check your pulse. If your pulse is normally about 70 and suddenly it's 110 and you're doing an herbal cleanse, watch out. And muscle test with the material that you want to put in the herbal cleanse. Hold it next to your chest and check your arm and see if it's weak or strong. If your arm's very strong, then I'd be more inclined to think it wouldn't cause the trouble. If your arm is weak, then I'd be more concerned about that.
Yeah. So the name of the game is just reducing all of our exposure and then getting this stuff out of our bodies.
Absolutely. We're toxic dump sites, and we have to clean it out.
Yeah.
And it helps if you go and breathe clean air and get a good air exchange in your lungs. Go someplace where the air is cleaner than usual. Many people notice if they take a trip and they go someplace, they feel fine, and then they come home and they feel terrible within 24 hours. That means that there's something wrong with their house.
Wow. Okay?
If they change their diet and they're much better in a week, that means there's something wrong with their diet. Okay? And generally, it's something in the air or your diet that's causing problems. And so the air purifier and getting out of the house would help if it's in the air. And if you go on a diet, usually, even though you might be worse the first day or two, you should be better at the end of the first week.
Yeah, it's so imperative that we do that. What kinds of things are you working on for your projects coming up? What kinds of things you got going on for you?
I have a book coming out probably in about 10 days, and I'll put it on my website. It's on handwriting. When I was in practice, I had the children write their name every 10 minutes when I did an allergy skin test in different solutions. So I'd start to test them with 1 concentration of milk, and then 10 minutes later I'd give them a 1 to 5 concentration, and 10 minutes after that a 1 to 25, and then 10 minutes after that a 1 to 125, and I'd cause symptoms with a strong concentration and eliminate symptoms with the weaker concentration of the same item. Wow. Let me repeat that. So if you were allergic to milk, I'd put a drop of milk in your arm and I could cause your asthma. And then every 8 to 10 minutes, I'd give a weaker dilution of the milk. And when I found the right weaker dilution, your asthma would disappear without any pills or medicine.
Wow.
And then the next time you drank milk, if you did want to get sick, you would put that dilution under your tongue or inject it in your arm, and you would probably be able to drink the milk and not have symptoms. Anyone that says that you can't treat food allergies are saying, I don't know how to do it, but I can assure you there are physicians who do know how to treat food allergies with injections, and the number to call is 316-684-5500. 316-684-5500, or just Google AAEM.com, which is the American Academy of Environmental Medicine, and that will tell you the name of the nearest doctor to where you live who knows the sort of things that I was talking about.
Wow, and what's the name of that book that's going to be coming out?
The name of the book that's coming out is Allergies Affect Your Brain, Body, and Handwriting. And I'm showing examples of how the handwriting changes before and after you eat, and how you can pinpoint which food is causing problems. The important thing is that if you can detect the food that's interfering with the handwriting, you're detecting a food that's interfering with normal brain function.
Wow.
And it means if you take that out of the diet, I would expect the children's grades to improve and their mental clarity to improve. There were so many children that I saw who went from D's to C's and D's, who went from C's to A's and B's. And there was one child, one girl, whose IQ went from 57 to 125 after we figured out that she was allergic to molds and a few foods.
Wow.
I've just had people wouldn't believe the degree of improvement that my patients had. A doctor can't say that they were successful, but I'm 83 years old, and I'm telling you the best thing I ever learned was provocation, neutralization, allergy testing, and treatment, and that it's possible to treat epilepsy in some people, arthritis, you name it. I saw all of it in my practice, and if you look at my website, I have examples of lots of that, and I have DVDs that I took with, and I have releases from the patients because they want to help other people, showing that psychotic reactions, depression, arthritis, you name it, all kinds of symptoms could be helped if someone took the time to figure out what caused the problems. Right. You have a nail in your shoe causing a sore in your foot, the first thing to do is take out the damn nail.
Right.
And if you continue to be exposed to the thing that causes you to be sick, expect to continue to be sick.
Yep.
But the best treatment is to get rid of the cause, not to take just a drug to mask the symptoms, because 20 years later, you're still going to have the heart irregularity from chocolate, for example, if you're eating chocolate and that's the cause and you haven't stopped eating chocolate. And I mentioned chocolate because, with the heart thing, because I can remember 3 generations of a family that had trouble from chocolate. The little girl got hyperactive and couldn't think when she ate chocolate. The mother developed premature ventricular contractions, which meant it felt like her chest was suddenly going into spasm if she ate chocolate. And the grandmother, if she ate chocolate, developed tachycardia, or an abnormally rapid heartbeat in the middle of the night.
Wow.
Allergies tend to run in families, but they can cause the same or different symptoms in different individuals.
Wow.
If you read my books, if you're listening to what I'm saying, and you want practical tips that may help you figure out what's going on, for goodness sake, get some of my books. The best book and the cheapest book to get is the book called Is This Your Child's World, which of course is also your world. It's a great big book. It's about 2.5 inches thick. I would never write such a detailed big book again because people don't like big books. But if you have a problem, many people have tried the diet in that book and their child was fine in 5 to 7 days, or they've put in an air purifier and the child is better in 1 day. And these 2 things help many patients get better within 1 to 7 days. And if you see a specialist in environmental medicine, they will know how to treat these allergies so that you can be exposed to most things and not have symptoms.
Wow. Well, thank you, Doris, for spending some time with us. We love what you're doing and want to support you, and thank you for all that you do.
Well, I thank you very much, and I hope anybody that has a child with a learning problem in school will definitely get the book on handwriting, because from the drawings and the handwriting of your children, you can pinpoint frequently exactly what's causing the problems in that area of the brain, and the children will improve and have a much better life.
Wow. Well,
I thank the opportunity of being able to talk to so many people today and give them a few tips that might be helpful and practical.
Well, thank you, Dr. Rapp. Thanks for being on our show. Would you mind holding on the line as I close out the show?
No, I don't mind at all.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today on another edition of Extreme Health Radio. What a great show. Dr. Rapp is an amazing individual. Check out our website, drrapp.com, and we'll have links to everything that she mentioned on our show page here, which is extremehealthradio.com/56. And if you are not motivated to clean up your environment, I don't know what it will take, but it's amazing. So we're working on that. Kate and I are working on getting our house more clean and getting rid of things that are toxic and all that kind of stuff. So thank you for joining us on today's episode. And I wanted to just mention that we are 100% listener supported. So if you're interested in supporting our work and to keep it free for everyone, we would greatly appreciate any donations you would like to give. And you can give as little as $1 through PayPal, and you don't even need to be a PayPal member. It's 100% secure. So we would greatly, greatly appreciate that. That would help to cover all of our costs in running this network and this show. And it would also help to keep it free for everybody else. So we don't want to charge anything for this. And if you can, that would be great. But if not, I just hope you're learning a lot and enjoying the show. Consider following us on Facebook and liking this show page and sending our links to people that you love, people that you care about. That would be a way to support us without having to give anything. And we also have a mailing list as well that's got a lot of good content coming out of there about once a week. And we also have a store on our website where you could purchase products like rebounders and blenders and dehydrators and courses like pregnancy courses and how to ferment food and all kinds of really, really great stuff in our store. So that will also help support our work too. So don't forget to check that out. And I want to thank naturalnewsradio.com, Mike Adams, for having us on his network. And I want to thank you most of all for being on our show and listening and tuning in. We really, really are appreciative of everything that you do. So you're doing